Today, those shepherds have returned. Just when we thought we'd got rid of them, back they pop and round out the story in another new way. Kai hyperstrepsan hoi poimenes doxas dontes, kai ainuntes ton theon, epipassen hois ercusan kai edon katos elalete prosautus. There's now our 10th sentence, beginning with the kai, in this section. So it's another one where maybe passage of time, maybe a general move on from the previous sentence, but there's nothing majorly disruptive going on here. Hypostrepsan comes from the verb hypostrepho, and that's only used 35 times in the New Testament, 32 of which are Luke Acts. So it's very clearly another one of the compound verbs. We've seen Luke using a lot of compound verbs. It's another example where he tends towards the compounded version. The shepherds turned back. The shepherds returned, we'll go with doxas dontes kai ainuntes, two participles. Think back to verse 14. You had ainunton, which is what the angels did, ainunton ton theon. They were praising God in a word that is unusual outside Luke. And the first thing they said was doxa. So you've now got the shepherds echoing the language of the angels. They're glorifying and praising God. And most commentaries will talk to you about how the glorifying is a more specific action here. That praise is a general biblical way of being positive about God, whereas doxas dontes is that specific act of glorifying that we see picked up in the doxa of verse 14. And what are they praising him for? Epi here is an unusual preposition to use in that context, but that's what it's doing here. They're praising him for everything. And then we're into a relative clause, hois ercusan kai edon, which they had heard and seen. Now, the hois is dative, attracted into the dative because of the passin. It's a direct object of ercusan and edon, so it ought to have been accusative. But one of the things that happens in Greek sometimes with relative pronouns is they end up attracted into the case of whatever it was that they're referring back to, their antecedent noun. Kathors, just as. And again, we'd had the angels using laleo and chrema around the shepherds, and we've got that lal root again here, just as it had been spoken. This is the aorist passive. It had been said or spoken autois to them. You'll notice that in English we find ourselves using the pluperfect, which had heard and seen and had been spoken. The Greeks got the aorist each time. So each of these is aorist. Ercusan, edon, elalete, because that's the different ways in which the languages are sequencing things. We're doing it relative to returned. So in order to make something prior to returned, the hypostrepsan, we need to put it into the pluperfect in English, whereas Greek is perfectly happy to use the aorist to do that sequencing process.